If your salary doubled today, would you automatically become rich? Most people would instantly say, yes. But the truth is, thousands of Americans earn over $100,000 a year and are still broke, while some people earning $50,000 a year become millionaires. So where does the difference come from? The secret you're about to discover today could completely change your financial future, because today, we're going to talk about a system that traps most people for their entire lives, and many of them never even realize it. It's a trap that schools don't teach, that colleges don't explain, and that even parents often struggle to understand. This is the story of Jake, but in reality, it's the story of anyone who works incredibly hard, yet still feels far away from financial freedom. Jake lived in a small American city. He was 27 years old. He had a college degree. He had a job. He had a car. And from the outside, his life looked completely normal. But there was one problem, a problem that bothered him every single night. Before going to sleep, his bank account. Every Friday, his paycheck arrived, and Jake felt happy. But then, rent, insurance, car payment, phone bill, Netflix, credit card bills, groceries, and before he knew it, another month was gone. And the strangest part, Jake worked extremely hard, yet he never seemed to get ahead. Sometimes he looked at his friend Mike. Mike worked at the same company. They earned almost the same salary, but every year, it seemed to become financially stronger. And Jake, he was stuck in the same place. One day, Jake made a decision. He was finally going to find the truth. During lunch break, he asked Mike, "We earn the same salary. So, how are you getting ahead financially?" Mike smiled and replied with just one sentence, "I put my money to work before I spend it." Jake was confused. Put my money to work? What did that even mean? Could money actually work? That night, Jake went home. He opened his laptop and started the most important research session of his life. He typed a question into Google: how do rich people actually get rich? He expected answers like a high salary, luck, a wealthy family. But what he discovered completely changed the way he thought about money. He learned that many wealthy people around the world did not become rich because of their salaries. They became rich because of their assets. And that's where the real story begins. The story that would completely transform Jake's life. But he had no idea yet that his biggest enemy wasn't inflation. It wasn't debt. It wasn't the economy. It was his own mindset. Jake asked himself just one question that night: how do rich people actually become rich? But he had no idea that the answer would completely change his life. Jake was sitting in front of his laptop. It was a.m. He opened his bank account. Every month, the same thing happened. His paycheck arrived, and then it disappeared. Salary, bills, shopping, entertainment, zero balance. Repeat. For the first time, Jake realized that maybe his income wasn't the problem. Maybe the system was. Since childhood, he had always heard the same advice: go to school, get a degree, find a good job, work hard, and everything will be fine. But now, he was 27 years old. He had a degree, he had a job, he worked hard, yet financial freedom was nowhere in sight. Jake started observing the people around him at work. Some had been doing the same job for 20 years, some for 30 years. All of them were waiting for payday, every month, every year, their entire lives. And for the first time, Jake felt afraid. What if this becomes my life too? That night, Jake discovered a concept called lifestyle inflation. The more money people make, the more money they spend. A bigger salary, a bigger apartment, a newer car, a more expensive lifestyle, but somehow no real wealth was ever created. That's when Jake realized becoming rich is not an income game, it's a behavior game. He grabbed a notebook and wrote, "Rich people increase assets. Poor people increase expenses." That sentence stayed in his mind, but the biggest shock was still ahead. The next day, Jake received a credit card payment reminder. For the first time in his life, he listed all his debts: credit card debt, car loan, student loan, personal loan, total debt, $65,900. Jake was stunned. For the first time, he realized that he wasn't wealthy at all. In fact, his net worth was negative. Then he opened his credit card statement. One number immediately caught his attention. Interest paid this year, $1,972. Almost $2,000. Gone. Not invested. Not saved. Not growing. Just paid to the bank. At that moment, Jake realized that the bank was making more money from him than he was making from his savings. That night, he texted his boss, "How did you get out of debt?" His boss replied, "I didn't get out of debt. I learned how debt works." Then he sent another message. "Poor people use debt to buy liabilities. Rich people use debt to buy assets." Jake couldn't stop thinking about those words. Debt itself wasn't the problem. The way people used debt was a luxury car loan, a liability, a rental property loan, an asset. Both involved borrowing money, but the outcomes were completely different. From that day on, Jake started asking himself one question before every financial decision: is this an asset or a liability? A few weeks later, Jake learned about inflation. He discovered that money doesn't only lose value through debt, it also loses value through inflation. If inflation rises by 7%, but your savings grow by only 1%, you're actually becoming poorer every year, even if your bank balance looks bigger. That realization shocked him. Jake began to understand why wealthy people don't just save money, they invest it in stocks, businesses, real estate, cash flow assets. Because assets can grow with inflation, cash often loses purchasing power. Jake started learning about investing. He learned about the stock market. He learned about compound growth. And most importantly, he learned patience. Every paycheck, he invested a small amount, then a little more, then even more. Months turned into years, and years turned into habits. Jake controlled his spending, reduced his debt, built assets, and for the first time in his life, his money started working for him. But then a new challenge appeared: success. His income increased, his investments grew, business opportunities appeared, and so did temptations. Luxury cars, expensive vacations, designer watches, bigger homes. Jake noticed that many people earned more money than ever before, yet they were still broke, because their spending grew faster than their income. That's when he learned another important lesson. Money problems are not solved by earning more. They are solved by better behavior. Jake chose not to buy the luxury car. Instead, he bought more assets. He chose investing over impressing people, and little by little, his net worth kept growing. Then the economy slowed down. Markets crashed. Companies started laying people off. People panicked. But for the first time, Jake didn't panic, because he had an emergency fund, investments, multiple income streams, assets. That's when he realized financial freedom doesn't mean having no problems. It means being able to survive them. Years later, Jake became financially secure, and he finally owned something more valuable than money: choice. If he wanted to work, he could. If he wanted to take a break, he could. If he wanted to spend more time with family, he could. That was real freedom. One day, Jake opened the notebook he had started years earlier. He looked at the first page, and one sentence caught his attention: "From today forward, I won't just spend money. I will learn how to make money work for me." At that moment, he realized that one decision had changed everything. Not luck, not inheritance, not winning the lottery, just one decision, repeated every day. On the final page of his notebook, Jake wrote, "Wealth is built slowly. Debt grows quietly. Assets create freedom. Time rewards patience." And maybe that's the biggest lesson of all. Financial freedom doesn't come from a bigger paycheck. It comes from understanding how money works. It's not about how much you earn. It's about where your money goes. Into assets or liabilities, into your future or temporary pleasures, into freedom or dependence. Because every financial decision you make today is writing the story of your future. And the day you truly understand the money game could be the day your entire life changes forever.